The Universal Service Access Fund is a mechanism by which monies are collected from companies operating in the telecommunications market. It's administered by BOCRA and it's used to fund development in underserved or unserved locations across the country.
Well, the Universal Access and Service Fund looks at issues of access to telecommunications services, and it also looks at issues of service in terms of making sure that Botswana have all the services that are required from a telecommunications point of view. So for us as MASCOM, what it means to have a fund that we are very happy to be participating to and contributing to is that we are contributing to enabling Botswana to participate in the information economy.
The purpose of this fund specifically is to provide infrastructure investments in areas where it will not be commercially viable to set up the infrastructure or the branches, as it were, in our specific case. For Botswana Post, it's a very crucial activity in the sense that it will, because we have an obligation to provide postal services, even in areas where it's not commercially viable, where the revenues are much lower than the operational cost of carrying out postal services. So the purpose of the Universal Fund would be to provide, to bridge the funding gap between the operational and the revenue coming out of these post services in the commercial areas.
It's a structured fund that each one of the operators, the public telecoms operators and the ISPs, contribute towards for the sake of developing ICT infrastructure and services. To BOFINET, obviously we would like to accelerate the development and deployment of ICT infrastructure, and this fund comes handy in that it closes some of the funding gaps that we normally come across.
Universal Access and Service Fund is an initiative by the Botswana Communications Regulatory Authority, BOCRA, to facilitate the development of the communications sector as a whole by availing resources that are meant to widen access and ensuring that as many Botswana have access to the various communication services that we have in this country, from broadcasting to postal services to internet and all the like. And to us, as Kemonoke Holdings, an entity that was formed by the 3 private radio stations in Botswana, being Yeron FM, Duma FM and Gaps FM, this is a vehicle that we need to widen our coverage to the rest of the country.
One of the objectives of the fund is on capacity building and making Botswana ready to receive telecommunication services by providing access at an affordable price for everybody in Botswana, irrespective of where they are. So for us as an operator, it means that by the time we get to the market and we have offerings that are in line to the offerings that are currently in the international markets, Botswana are able to engage with us, they're able to receive our product offering much more easily.
We are expected as a wholesale infrastructure operating and managing broadband infrastructure to cover the whole country and connect to the world. And this fund, as it's been the case recently, helps us accelerate the development of infrastructure. Recently, it did assist us in the deployment of Wi-Fi hotspots, and if it wasn't in existence, we wouldn't have done the level of coverage that we have done so far.
Our mandate is obviously to provide service countrywide. We will use the Universal Service Access Fund in instances where perhaps economically it would not be viable to deploy capability.
The fund will definitely help Kemonoke to deliver on its mandate to Botswana, because with the assistance that we'll get from Kemonoke, we'll be able to roll out our transmission to locations that we would not have been able to roll out to if we were only to rely on contributions from the members of Kemonokeng, who are the 3 radio stations that I spoke about. And due to the limitations that we have in this market, the radio stations are unable to contribute adequately or adequate finances that are needed for us to be able to cover all the areas in this country.
The mandate of Botswana Postal Services, Botswana Post, is to provide efficient postal services throughout the country, despite the location of the post offices. Now, what the Universal Service Access Fund will do is to assist in bridging the gap between operational costs and the revenues of these post offices. So the fund will actually help us as an organization to be able to effectively deliver postal services on the same quality of service standards as obtained in any part of the country from one other part to another.
It's quite important as a country, as a nation, especially that we want to be competitive, move from being a middle income company to a high income company. I think it's very, very clear that ICT and efficient ICT, world-class ICT, are quite critical in helping us to be competitive. But unless and until we cover the whole country with those world-class services, we won't be as competitive as other competing nations. And the fund does help in terms of closing the gaps and accelerating the development of the infrastructure and services.
The Universal Access and Service Fund is important on a national level because, as you know, they say information is the pillar of the growth of any nation, and we have an aspiration as a nation to become an informed and educated nation, and we can only attain such aspirations if people have access to information. And with the assistance that the communication services sector will get from the fund, we believe it will enable the rolling out of services to some of the areas that the operators wouldn't have been able to roll out their services to, and increase and widen access to information, and enable people to access information from different perspectives. With broadcasting, for instance, when the radio stations cover, or deliver information from different perspectives, that is able, or that would enable people to make choices based on the different perspectives that they have received, and make informed decisions based on that.
Well, if you look at the ambitions of Vision 2016, it talks about an informed and educated nation. So the fund talks about one of the objectives focuses on quality access to telecommunication services. So from an educational point of view, if you are able to make sure that the school-going children have access to telecommunication services, then you are contributing directly to that pillar of an informed and educated nation.
The fund is necessary and important on national level in the sense that it sort of like ensures the equitable distribution of wealth and resources and telecommunication infrastructure throughout the country, in the sense that it allows investment and provision of telecommunication services in areas where any company or an operator would not be able to do so. For example, if I go to one of the remotest areas in Botswana, it would be costly for me to set up a post office there, but using my own funds. But if I were to be provided with Universal Service Access funds, that means that the cost of establishing such post offices, ensuring that Botswana actually have access to postal services, is mitigated and borne by the fund, not the post office, ensuring that we continue to operate on a sound financial basis.
Well, what it will do is obviously enable those who wouldn't otherwise have access to IT infrastructure, both voice and data services, to benefit from those and hopefully drive the economy in the more remote parts of the country.